welcome everybody to a new edition of the Story Lab show, the place where personal and professional experience melt together in a unique experience. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Cees WERFF. He is CEO and President of the Claims Corporation Network, an organization active all over Europe and with a very large experience. But I will invite Cees to tell you more. It's obvious you are dealing with claims, but how and what you are actually doing.
Okay,
Please,
thank you.
Cees.
Thank you, Daniela, and thanks for having me in this show. It's a great honor, as I also have been watching the two previous speakers in your lab. So I'm proud to be part of that group.
Welcome.
Thank you. And about the first introduction about CCN Claims Corp. We are an European TPA, a third-party administrator specialized in claims management services. So we are assisting insurance carriers all over Europe in handling the claims, especially in countries where they don't have an own offices. So as an outsourcing partner, the lines of business we are servicing is related to motor, so both Casco and MTPL, but also transport and logistic, so transport-related claims like CMR, but also property and casualty, marine and travel. So that's in a nutshell our activities for the insurance market.
Well, I assume that in this position you are dealing with lots of insurers, partnering with them in your business, and you have a broad image of the changes that this pandemic situation brought in the insurance industry. Would you say that you have witnessed some changes that will be long-lasting, not just directly and related to pandemics and lasting as the special situation is?
Yeah, a little looking first back to the pre-COVID situation. As for the last 3-4 years, I've been advocating digital transformation into the different insurance markets. I did a lot of seminars and conference where I presented the digital technical revolution or evolution. What was going on in our sector, not only in let's say in the respective countries, but broader also on a European scale, but even also looked at a global scale. Of course, in each sector you will have always the first movers. They are the ones who embrace the technology driven change and will be upfront. But a lot of the insurance players looked at a little bit from distance and said, well, let's see what comes our way, and we will adjust if needed. Well, the pandemic, of course, with the situation that after the lockdown was announced, within 2 days everyone was working from home, so that became the new norm, and that was technically all possible. And that means that also on our business operational side, we had to make big adjustment because the customers were not coming to the office anymore. They didn't pass by to fill in paper work, but everything immediately went full digital. So what we see there as CCN is that where, let's say, we thought that the whole digital transformation would take for our industry 5 to 10 years. I think now during the pandemic, we have taken in 5 years at least, where all the carriers changed their operating business model to a full digital environment, and that will be lasting for sure. The other thing, but that I still have some doubts on that, is the work from home. Although, let's say, initially all the people also embrace that, but now slowly when the business is picking up, I had made some business trip to Poland and to Denmark recently, and there I see that the customers are very eager to return back to the offices and have the interaction with customers, partners, and clients again. So how that will pave out towards the futures, it will probably some hybrid model where people will 1 or 2 days per week work from home, and the rest coming back to the office, because people want to integrate, will want to socialize with each other, and the whole dynamic of doing business is when you're as persons are being together. So that's my takeaway of the pandemic.
I totally agree, of course, that human contact remains something necessary, both in the office relationships and with the interacting with customers. And in fact, speaking about customers, the claims moment is the reality check for the service quality of any insurer. That is the point when the customers finally decides if he or her is benefiting from a good service or not. Do you think that all this technological advancement and all the changes during this period have brought really a progress in this respect? Are customers now provided with better services? It's easier to file a claim to solve everything?
Well, for sure, it's easier now these days to file a claim as from the let's say the paper world. During the pandemic, we moved into a digital first notification of loss. So this is already an improvement, and which makes the life of the consumer easier if he wants to report a claim. As you said rightly, when there is a claim, it's the moment of truth. As for the insurer, because then you can check what you sold as an insurance policy, and if indeed it matched the expectation of the customer, and that can be both a private customer or a commercial customer. The whole digitalization, digital transformation process speeded up the whole process of the moment of registering the claim up to the moment of the settlement and the payment. Of course, it never goes at the same pace over all lines of business, or in every country at the same moment, or within the different insurance players per market. Everyone has his own pace, but what we see is there's a change moment going on. There's this momentum. That most of the claim settlements are going much faster than let's say prior to COVID.
You at CCN are dealing a lot with the claims related to traveling, flight cancellations, or other sorts of claims related to traveling. And as we all know, during this period, the travel businesses were hit very strong because of the restrictions. And in this respect, how do you comment the current situation? I assume that first it was a moment of transition, hard transition, because everything was new and the situations were new. Are we in a moment of equilibrium now?
Well, what we saw there is that after the mid of March last year, when the countries went into a lockdown and a state of emergencies were declared, the number of planes that we were being grounded was tremendous, and I think that 80 to 85% of all the flights were cancelled. Due to all the restrictions. The only flights that were still taking place is to pick up people from their holiday addresses or from the countries where they were working. So that were the only flights which continued. Then during the summer last year, we saw a small pickup of charter flights going with people to holiday destinations. But as of October, a lot of countries went again into the lockdown and state of alert or state of emergency. And then the whole restrictions came into play. And people were forced to stay on the ground. It was almost impossible to enter into a country due to all the situations in the country, orange code or yellow code, or even red code in certain countries. So that had an enormous effect on the travel business. That means also that for the insurance carriers, they were not selling travel insurance policies at all, or almost to zero. That came to a standstill. And with that, of course, that also impacted our flight claim operation, that there were 0 to none claims coming in. There's another trend in the sector which came more or less parallel, and that at the moment the airline carriers decided to cancel flights. It was impossible for the whole industry to pay back the amount that was already paid for the trip, which is by law mandatory. So a lot of carriers started to give out vouchers. And initially, people accepted it, but later on, people also said, well, now in case there's no flights available, or I don't see myself flying during the next 6 or 12 months, I want to have my money back. So the vouchers or the carriers were asked, instead of the vouchers, to do a repayment. And of course, there was a lot of reluctance from the industry, because if everyone would do like a bank run on the airline carriers, then all the airlines would go bankrupt. And there would have been no money available to cover and to repay all those vouchers outstanding. So that was another development, what we saw. And earlier this week, and that's the last, let's say, comment on this topic, Daniela, is that Chubb, the insurance company, did a big research all over Asia and Europe and the US about their customers and the effect of the pandemic on business travel. And it was over 80% of all the respondents said that the pandemic and not traveling has affected their client relationships. And they are eager to start flying again, and that can be with a vaccination passport, or a negative PCR test, or with a test which shows that you have antibodies, so that you are protected against the virus. So I think at the moment it will be more released, and people are able to or able to allow traveling again and to enter countries. That people will start traveling again, and to go and to revisit their clients, and to build up the relationship moment again, because this is what it is about on the business side.
Well, with all these new rules in place governing the air traveling, is it possible that we will see different situations leading to flight cancellations from other reasons than the traditional ones, weather or mechanical problems, or so on and so forth? Is there a coverage for other kind of situations, or are the companies, the insurers, prepared to take into considerations also other kind of such situations?
More and more people will look for insurance solutions where COVID-related costs will be covered under the travel insurance policies. Sometimes the countries already offering such a policy. Earlier this week, Icelandic Air has announced that for all the tickets people are buying and start traveling again, it's including a travel insurance which covers COVID-related costs. So I think that is where the travelers will start looking for the carriers who offer that product or that coverage included, and not be able to exclude that anymore, because then the customer will not take that risk of buying such a product and then facing a situation in a country that he is without coverage and have to bear all the cost himself. So I think this is one of the trends we will see the travel insurance have to include COVID-19 related costs.
Well, this is clearly something that will last probably for long.
Yeah.
And directly related to flights, let's say, because you are dealing a lot with this typical situation of flight cancellations. Uh, are situations covered, for instance, I don't know, if you suspect you were infected during flying and you have to get some compensation for this, or maybe you are refused flying because you are a suspect of being infected, or this kind of situations are covered in this moment?
Well, there are two things. If we look at let's say the traditional cancellation or delay claims that came in, this was covered under the EC 261 directive in Europe, which applies to all airline carriers in Europe and non-EU carriers departing from an EU airport. When we are dealing with situations where a customer is denied boarding due to the fact that he doesn't have the required papers with him, or he is at the testing and it seems that he is infected. Yeah, and that this first of all, this is not covered under the E261 regulation, so that would be or an insurance-related claim if the carrier is indeed insuring these kind of costs for the passenger. And on the other hand, that is also the responsibility of the traveler prior to traveling, to make himself aware what are all the requirements, not only from the departing country, but also at their arrival country. And your airline or the airline carriers is informing the passengers by email, by WhatsApp, and by SMS. Be aware. There can be travel restrictions or additional limitations with regards to the spread of COVID. So make yourself aware before you travel what are the rules in each respective countries. So that will be difficult for the traveler to claim from the insurance company or from an airline. The man said, well, yes, I bought a ticket and I was not completely aware. That are a few different situations to take into consideration.
So there is place for some conflictual situation in the future, and it seems to me at least that traveling by air will be, at least for some time, rather complicated, at least compared to the way we were traveling before.
This is for sure. This is for sure.
But I would like to go now to another thing with you. You have told us before about the technical innovation that you have seen in the industry, and at CCN, I know that you are always advocating for innovative services and speedy adaptation to the realities and the customers' needs and expectations. And this year, I think probably you should be happy, at least a bit, with what we have witnessed in the industry. Do you think that, considering the expectations, especially of the younger customers, is the insurance industry usually considered a little bit not so eager to modernize? This time, is the industry a step closer to fulfilling these expectations, that making things easier, faster, to clicks distance?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would tend to say yes, and as I in one of the previous questions already expressed, is that we have made a big leap forward in a development or as a market, as an industry, which otherwise without COVID would have taken at least 5 to 10 years. to complete. And I think now we have taken in 5 years in one step, in 12, 13 months. Well, if you look at the different generations, especially the millennials, they will feel themselves much more associated, aligned with companies as Google, Amazon, Apple, and the kind. And that in the case they will start selling insurance policies, and they're already trying and doing it in different markets. The loyalty and the brand awareness is much higher with that group, and they will opt for these kind of brands as they trust them. Where, let's say, on the other side, buying in insurance coverage, and especially if it's a private line of business, so content, home, travel, liability, these have become commodity products, and there as a carrier that should be accessible, easy indeed, as you said, 1, 2, 3 clicks, and then you should have your policy in your mailbox, and you should have completed the transaction with a payment online by credit card or direct bank access, because that is what the people now expect and what they see in their day-to-day life. So I think that's the way going forward, and it's a shift left to take an expression like this. And for example, if you take in the past, when you and even during the pandemic, we saw this change all coming up, that when you went out for a coffee at a takeaway coffee, then you went in, you waited in line, you're going to choose your coffee, then you're going to pay, then you wait for the pickup, and now you have the app. You order already online, and you get a message when your coffee is ready, and you have paid already online as well. So from a very traditional point of view, going there, waiting, ordering, paying, and collecting your coffee, that has become now a full online experience. And no one will go there and start waiting now for a coffee and then ordering. No, you have the app, you pay, or you order, you pay online, and then it will say at that time your coffee is ready. And this is what people expect also in other industries, and why not also the insurance industry.
Well, of course, insurance is a little bit more complicated than more complicated product and very strictly regulated. So things are a little bit more laborious than providing a coffee and delivering a coffee.
Of course, it's true, and that's why I use the example. It's not that it is easy to copy paste something from ordering coffee to a regulated industry, but you also can take examples of how your customers are getting used due to other industries, and what their preferred communication tool is in buying and having an insurance policy. So it's a way of thinking which changes.
Yes, of course, I'm sure you're right. What I want to put on the table now, it's your international experience, because okay, you are dealing a lot in your business with mobility and travel, but CCN, it's also a very mobile company. You are present already in 34 countries, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, correct.
Including in my country, in Romania, you have here an office. And I assume that both working in so many countries and both dealing with claims in so many countries has a strong link to the local culture, the way that people are seeing relationships in business, in life in general. How do you comment? How hard is, or how exciting is to go in so many countries and establish a business there?
Yeah, it's highly exciting, and we are now operating in, as you said, in over 34 markets, both with own offices, and in addition to that, we have franchise partners who operate under the CCN brand. And the whole idea when we founded CCN 5 years ago was the idea that we would like to offer our insurance customers a coverage and an assistance network all over Europe, and to be able to do it in the same way, irrespective of the country where the damage occurs. And that is we able to build that network and that ecosystem for our customers, to give them a horizontal customer journey that irrespective if they have a damage in Russia or in Turkey or in Portugal and Norway, they will receive within CCN the same approach and the same procedure with regarding to the handling of their claims. And that is quite exciting to be able to build such a network and to able to implement such a target operating model to give this customer experience all over this European continent in the same way. In the same time, dealing with all the local differences with cultural legislation, law, doing business, and that also comes together. And I think as a company and as a person involved in that, yeah, it enriches you and in seeing all those different cultures and understanding how people are doing business. And not only to look at from your own country perspective, yeah, because then it's more like a tunnel vision. You only see your own perspective and don't understand how other people are living and working and living together. Yeah, so it's a wonderful journey.
I would like to specifically know from you if there was event, a moment that had a very great impact on your business and affected you also as a person, where I want to see where is that link between your personal story and your business story.
Yeah, thank you, Daniela. Yeah, I have very interesting questions. I have actually two examples of that, and they are both related to Romania. One positive and one not so positive, and I will start with the last one in that sense that it affected me as a person. We started in Romania back in 2015, 2016, and we hired one of the industry experts to join CCN Romania. This person, after let's say less than a year, was involved in a very severe car accident, which not only affected him but also his wife, and both were brought with a trauma helicopter to a hospital. And it was like that. I left him with meetings on a Thursday, and this happened on Saturday. And I got a phone call from a good friend of him and said, well, don't be upset or don't be afraid. But there was a very, very severe accident and trauma helicopters. And I remember that the days following there, I completely changed my program. I canceled everything. And on Monday, after that event, I immediately flew to Romania to go there and to see what was going on. I didn't have any expectations. And then you're entering in a state hospital there, and then you see there your colleague on the monitor, and well, the situation was really, really, really bad and life-threatening. And we immediately, as a company, decided to take care of those people and said, well, we will be there for you. This is our moral obligation to help you through your recovery process. And the whole recovery process took almost 2 years. And when you as a company are, and as an owner of a company, you're building up, and then something happens then also 2,500 kilometers away from where you're based, this makes a great impact on a person. And especially as a business owner and starting up the company. So that has affected me as a person. and to take care of each other. Even if it's a business relationship, we found part of the values of a company. And looking back, I think it was for us the right decision to do so. Going now to a more positive story, when we designed and developed the flight claim business, we decided to start from Romania, and we did our market research about companies that were active in Europe overall and how big that market was, and we saw the potential, but we didn't had any idea yet what could come our way. So we built in our basement, in a garage, we built a first platform which was called flightclaim.ro, and started with in that market. And I think after, let's say, the first week or the second week, we had our first customer in, and of course you can imagine that the first claim we successfully forwarded to an airline carrier, and that we received for that customer the money in our bank account. That was a great victory. And of course it was a lot of development and getting the child's diseases out of the platform. But immediately we saw the potential in expanding that flight claim operation. And then we built the second platform, which was called flightclaimeu.com, available, and we rolled it out all over Europe, and we are now active in 20 markets with local operations, and people are able to report the claim in their own languages. Unfortunately, due to COVID, this business, of course, has been severely affected. But I think in the coming years, and it will probably not this year, and even perhaps not next year, but let's say we're moving to 2023, 2024, we see a good and solid business case for this type of business. So that was a very positive development from a completely insured tech startup from Romania, which we successfully have been building out over 20 different countries now.
Were there any markets where it wasn't particularly hard to open or to extend the business? The cultural difference were too big, or it was hard getting a good understanding of the local specific?
Yeah, it is an understanding of the local specific, and each countries we did acquisitions. So there we acquired an established company with an existing customer base, and with colleagues. And in other markets, it was a greenfield operation where you really start from scratch as a one-man band with a local entrepreneur, and said, okay, let's develop this market together. And then you see there the difference in with the regulation, with the administration, with banks, with accountancy rules. Yeah, and then each country has its own dynamic. And one thing I've learned, Daniela, from doing that, and irrespective, let's say the next market we would enter, is that you have to be patient and take your time, and that it's a time-consuming, let's say, exercise to have things right in place. And it's not like you go for the first time in a market, and then the next month, you have your offers and you are alive. It is really something that takes time to develop and to understand.
Well, patience is an interesting lesson in these times when everybody rushes to achieve new things. In fact, I read one resume of yours, and I saw that you are coming from law initially, which is an interesting journey. But it's also common for many top professionals in the insurance industry, this law background. What drove you to this particular kind of business? Was a moment, an event, something that had an impact and decisive on your options?
Well, I for sure, I think that my career path is something that other people have seen as well, and to be honest, in that a lot of things happen by the moment, by the people you meet, the encounter in your personal life, and every route has a cross point during your career, and it's you who decide which way you want to go. And yes, I started my career as a lawyer in a law office, and that was in a time where it was difficult to, as a graduated law student, had to find your next profession. It was a difficult market, very tightened. And then I met someone from a loss adjusting company who was looking for a person with a legal background to do liability claims. And he said, "Wow, why don't you join me for one day and I'll show you what our world is about." And I found it so exciting, and that was the moment that I decided to step in the insurance industry. And more or less, let's say from that end, different things developed. I met several people during my career, and every time it was a cross point, and I was able to decide which way I would like to go as a next step.
So it's very much again about people and personal encounters and experiences.
Absolutely, and that's important lesson. Also for the young generation insurance, build your network. This is your access and assets you are able to take with you, always going forward wherever you are.
Well, we are close to the end of our discussions, but I cannot leave you before asking you, what are your expectations for the next months, the next year, and what are your most important wishes for the next period? What would you like to see in the industry?
Well, expectations are very difficult, especially in the current situation. And we just announced last week our Q1 results, which were good, were solid and robust. We saw an 8% improvement against Q1 last year. But we are, let's say, positive for the next quarter, so the second quarter, where we think that the improvement will continue, but then already after that it will already be more difficult to predict, and all will depends how this virus is going to develop. Are the vaccinations strong enough to also for other mutants of the COVID virus to withhold? Or will there be more vaccinations needed with new typologies? And does it mean that we go back in as something of a lockdown? I read just before this call, I read that the Seychelles, who have been free of COVID for some time, have now seen the first new COVID mutants back under their populations, and they're closing down now the country again. So is this something we will see going forward? Perhaps. I don't know. So my forecast for the next 3 months is that we are, let's say, optimistic. How for the long term or even the full year, I'm not able to give any forecast whatsoever, and we will see it on a case-by-case basis. So, and when your second question, what do you hope? I hope that everyone stays safe and healthy, and will recover, or if they have already been ill by COVID, and that at a certain moment we all see each other back alive at events, at congresses, at seminars, in one-to-one meetings, because this is what the business actually it's about. It's the interaction between people. We are social animals, and we need to team up and to integrate and to socialize with each other to do business and to build up relationships. What I've been doing over the last 20 years.
Well, I would say that your answers goes in your usual note, an optimistic one, despite the disclaimer that you have added a little bit earlier. And I really hope you are right, and we will see things improving quite fast, or as fast as possible. Until then, thank you very much, Case. I
My pleasure.
wish you to remain optimistic and to have good reasons to remain optimistic in the following months. And for our viewers, thank you for participating. Thank you for following us. Don't uh, miss the opportunity to subscribe to the YouTube channel of XPRIMM so that you can see everything that is new. And see you next time with another guest. Goodbye.